My brothers and sisters, on July 30th, 2025, at exactly 1549 UTC, something unprecedented happened in Russia's Far East that mainstream media is completely missing the prophetic significance of. A magnitude 8.8 earthquake struck 74 miles east-southeast of Petropavlovsk-Kamchatka, the sixth strongest earthquake ever recorded in human history. But here's what makes this extraordinary. Within hours of this massive quake, Klyuchevskoy volcano, Eurasia's tallest active volcano, erupted in direct response. While seismologists are calling this exceptional earthquake-volcanic coupling, those of us who study the ancient Hebrew prophecies recognize something far more significant. We're witnessing what may be the literal fulfillment of Ezekiel's 2,600-year-old prophecy about geological catastrophes in the land of Magog. Today, I'm going to show you 5 specific correlations between this July 30th event and Ezekiel, 38 minutes and 19 seconds to 22, that will leave you stunned. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this may be the most important geological event in prophetic history. To understand the prophetic significance of what happened on July 30th, we need to examine the scientific facts that make this event so extraordinary. The magnitude 8 earthquake created a rupture area of approximately 390 kilometers by 140 kilometers. That's larger than the entire state of Connecticut. The earthquake generated tsunami waves of 3 to 4 meters and was felt across the entire Pacific Ring of Fire. But here's what has volcanologists around the world talking. Russian scientists had been monitoring a lava lake at Klyuchevskoy summit since July 21st. The volcano was literally primed for eruption 9 days before the earthquake hit. When that massive 8.8 quake struck, it was like lighting a geological fuse. According to KVERT, that's the Kamchatka Volcanic Eruption Response Team, this volcano immediately responded with what they're calling enhanced volcanic vigor. The Russian Academy of Sciences Institute of Volcanology has never recorded such immediate seismic volcanic coupling in their decades of monitoring. This isn't an isolated incident. The period from 2023 to 2025 has seen unprecedented volcanic activity in this region. In April 2023, Klyuchevskoy volcano produced what Russian scientists classified as a great catastrophic eruption of this century. The explosion destroyed a lava dome that had been growing for 42 years, ejecting over 0.60 cubic kilometers of material. Right now, as I speak, KVERT maintains orange aviation color codes for multiple volcanoes, including Klyuchevskoy Klyuchevskoy in Karinsky. These are the highest alert levels before imminent danger, indicating ongoing threats to North Pacific air routes and continued elevated volcanic hazards. Now, when the ancient prophet Ezekiel described geological catastrophes in the land of Magog, he wasn't using symbolic language. The Hebrew words he chose were startlingly specific, and what's happening in Russia today matches his descriptions with frightening accuracy. Let me read you the exact words from Ezekiel chapter 38, verses 19 and 20, using the English Standard Version, which maintains close fidelity to the original Hebrew. For in my jealousy and in my blazing wrath I declare, on that day there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel, and the fish of the sea, and the birds of the heavens, and the beasts of the field, and all creeping things that creep on the ground, and all the people who are on the face of the earth shall quake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the cliffs shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. Now, for those who appreciate scholarly details, the Hebrew here is extraordinarily precise. The phrase great earthquake uses the words reish gadol, where reish specifically denotes violent geological upheaval that affects entire regions, not just local shaking. This is the same word used to describe the earthquake that split the Mount of Olives during King Uzziah's reign. But notice what Ezekiel adds in verse 22, and this is where it gets remarkable. With pestilence and bloodshed. I will enter into judgment with him, and I will rain upon him and his hordes, and the many peoples who are with him torrential rains and hailstones, fire and sulfur. The Hebrew words for fire and sulfur are ve-gophrit. Ancient peoples had limited vocabulary for geological phenomena, but this terminology perfectly describes volcanic activity. Denotes consuming fire, while gophrit specifically refers to sulfur compounds, exactly what modern volcanologists measure in volcanic emissions. Now, here's where recent academic research becomes crucial. Leading biblical scholars and historians have consistently identified ancient Magog with the Scythian territories around the Black and Caspian Seas. First-century historian Flavius Josephus stated explicitly, Magog founded the Magogites, thus named after him, but who are by the Greeks called the Scythians. This historical identification places ancient Magog in regions that encompass parts of modern Russia, particularly areas north of the Black Sea, extending into Siberia and the Far Eastern territories, exactly where these unprecedented volcanic events are occurring. Dr. Charles Feinberg of Talbot Theological Seminary notes that if interpreted literally, Ezekiel 38:39 tells of a coming northern confederacy of nations about the Black and Caspian Seas with Persia and North Africa invading the Promised Land. This interpretation aligns geographically with current geological activity and evolving geopolitical tensions. But the prophetic connections go far beyond geography. When we examine what's actually happening in Russia's sulfur emissions and geological patterns, the correlations become impossible to ignore. Let me present 5 specific scientific correlations between recent Russian volcanic activity and Ezekiel's ancient prophecy that go far beyond coincidence. First, the sulfur content and ash composition analysis from recent eruptions reveals what Russian scientists are calling unique geochemical signatures. Shivaluk ash composition showed 59% CO with natural levels of radionuclides including potassium-40, radium-226, and thorium-232. When Ezekiel described fire and sulfur raining down, he was using the Hebrew gophrit, the same word used to describe the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Modern analysis confirms these Russian eruptions are releasing unprecedented amounts of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. Second, the timing correlation is startling. Ezekiel's prophecy specifically states these geological events will occur in the latter days, when Israel is regathered to their land. Israel became a nation again in 1948, and these volcanic awakenings are happening precisely as Middle East tensions involving Russia, Iran, and Israel reach unprecedented levels. According to Carnegie Endowment analysis from 2024, Russia now supplies Iran with advanced military equipment, including Su-35 fighters and attack helicopters, while Iranian pilots train on Russian systems. This Russia-Iran military partnership represents exactly the kind of northern confederacy with Persia that Ezekiel described. Third, the earthquake-volcano coupling patterns are unprecedented in recorded geological history. USGS experts noted that while the July 30th earthquake didn't cause the eruption to begin, it likely increased the vigor of the eruption, including significant ash emission. This immediate response demonstrates the kind of interconnected geological violence that Ezekiel described as mountains being thrown down. Fourth, the scale matches prophetic descriptions exactly. The July 2025 earthquake created effects across the entire Pacific Ring of Fire. KVERT currently maintains orange aviation color codes for multiple volcanoes across a region spanning thousands of kilometers. When Ezekiel wrote about geological catastrophes affecting all the people who are on the face of the earth, he was describing exactly this kind of regional impact. But the fifth correlation is the most unsettling of all. Recent archaeological discoveries at Megiddo, the biblical Armageddon, have uncovered 7th century BCE Greek mercenary pottery that some scholars connect to biblical Gog references. The timing? These discoveries occurred in 2023 to 2024, during the exact period of unprecedented Russian volcanic activity. Israeli archaeologists, Professor Israel Finkelstein and Dr. Asaf Kleiman, discovered pottery dating to 630 to 610 BCE that may connect to biblical Gog references, as some scholars identify Gog with Gyges, king of Lydia, who sent mercenaries to Egyptian armies, according to Assyrian records. Friends, when a 2,600-year-old text accurately describes not just the location and the specific geological phenomena, but even correlates with archaeological discoveries happening during the same period, we're dealing with something that transcends mere coincidence. Now, what makes these geological events even more significant is the unprecedented geopolitical context in which they're occurring. According to Rand Corporation analysis, Russia has developed what they call a transactional partnership with Iran that serves mutual interests. Russia provides Iran with advanced military equipment, including Su-35 fighters and attack helicopters, while Iran supplies Russia with Shahed drones for operations in Ukraine. This military cooperation creates exactly the kind of northern confederacy with Persia that Ezekiel 38 to 5 to 6 describes. The Hebrew text specifically mentions Persia, Kush, and put with them modern Iran, parts of Africa, and allied territories. Simultaneously, Russia maintains working relationships with Israel, focused on preventing military incidents in Syrian airspace. Wilson Center research reveals that despite supporting Iran, Russia has not fundamentally restricted Israeli operations against Iranian targets in Syria. This creates the exact kind of complex, unstable triangular relationship that prophetic scenarios describe. But here's what's truly remarkable. Recent archaeological discoveries are providing tangible support for biblical geographical references during this exact period of geological activity. 2023 to 2024 excavations at Megiddo revealed unprecedented quantities of 7th century BCE Egyptian pottery, potentially corroborating biblical accounts of battles in this prophetically significant location. Known as Armageddon, DNA evidence from the First Temple period has confirmed biblical historical accuracy, with the first ancient Israelite DNA recovered from burial at Kirjath Jearim. At Tel Shimron, archaeologists discovered a monumental Canaanite structure 3,800 years old, mentioned in Joshua 11:1 and 19:15. At Hazor, they found a 7-headed serpent seal, potentially linking ancient Near Eastern mythology with Revelation imagery. These Russian geological events align with multiple biblical prophecies beyond Ezekiel. Isaiah 34:8-10 describes volcanic activity with streams turned into pitch, dust into brimstone, land becoming burning pitch. Joel 2:30-32 prophesies wonders in heavens and earth, blood, fire, pillars of smoke before the great and terrible day of the Lord. Leading biblical scholars like Dr. Daniel Block emphasize caution in applying ancient prophetic texts to contemporary political situations. However, they consistently note that Ezekiel 38-39 uses remarkably specific geographical and geological terminology that aligns with current events in ways that merit serious theological consideration. So what does all of this mean for us as believers living in this extraordinary moment of history? First, let me be absolutely clear about what we are and are not saying. We are not setting dates for Christ's return. We are not creating fear or panic. What we are doing is exactly what Jesus commanded us to do in Luke 21:28. Now when these things begin to take place, straighten up and raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. These geological signs, whether they are connected to Ezekiel's prophecy or not, remind us that our God is sovereign over all creation, from the movements of nations to the stirring of magma, 15 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface. The same God who spoke these prophecies 2,600 years ago holds every tectonic plate in his hands. For those of us who know Christ, these signs should not bring fear, but anticipation. As the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 8:19, "For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. Even the earth itself groans for the redemption that is coming." Practically speaking, these events should motivate us to share the gospel with renewed urgency, to live with eternal perspective, and to be faithful stewards of whatever time God has given us. Whether Christ returns in our lifetime or not, these signs remind us that His kingdom is advancing and His purposes will be fulfilled. If you're watching this and you've never personally surrendered your life to Jesus Christ, these geological and prophetic signs should serve as a divine wake-up call. The same God who foretold these events 2,600 years ago has also provided a way of salvation through His Son. Romans 10:9 tells us, "If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved." This isn't about religion or church membership. This is about a personal relationship with the God who controls earthquakes and volcanoes. For my brothers and sisters in Christ who are watching this, take heart. We serve a God who knows the end from the beginning, who has numbered every star and calls them by name, and who holds every volcanic eruption, even magnitude 8.8 earthquakes, in His sovereign hands. Whether these events represent the literal fulfillment of Ezekiel's prophecy or simply remarkable parallels, they point us toward the same truth. Our God is in control, His word is reliable, and His promises are sure. These aren't signs to fear. They're signposts directing us toward our blessed hope. If this analysis has been meaningful to you, please share it with others who need this perspective. Subscribe for more biblical analysis of current events. And remember, we're not fearmongers spreading panic. We're watchmen on the wall, faithfully reporting what we observe in light of God's unchanging word. Let's close in prayer. Father, thank you for your prophetic word that gives us confidence and perspective in uncertain times. Whether these geological events fulfill ancient prophecy or simply remind us of your power, help us to be faithful witnesses of your truth. May we live with urgency but not anxiety, with anticipation but not fear. Draw people to your Son Jesus through these signs and wonders. In Christ's name, amen.